Oh, thanks, Holly. Yes, I'm okay. I was trying to gather up all the plants I was going to talk about, and I didn't give myself enough time. So sorry about that. All right, cool. I was like, oh yeah, I want to have like actual visuals of what I'm going to talk about, but they're spread around the house. So I was like, wait, I was going to talk about this one and this one. I've been grabbing them up. Sorry about that. Sorry about that delay. All right, let me welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're tuning in from, of course. And happy almost Halloween. So, uh, pretty pretty excited. Halloween is our favorite time of year. I have my carrot dress on today. So yeah, no, our home is kind of revolves around revolves around Halloween. A lot of our decorations even are Halloween decorations that we keep up year round. So we have like a lot of skulls around the house, and and things like that. We even have a sign on our door on the outside, um, that says welcome, and it's all like apothecary jars with like spiders and stuff, and it says welcome. But it just looks so cool. But yeah, flesh-eating plants, Phyllis McDonald. I wish I actually do have a really cool, hold on, a really cool decoration. That I think was it last? It might have been last Halloween or two Halloweens ago that we picked up, and I have it on my bookshelf now. Let me, here we go. I think it was two Halloweens ago, but we think we got it from Target. I want to say Target, maybe Michael's, but I think it was Target. And it's supposed to be like a pitcher plant, and well, that's supposed to be an orchid down there, but I guess they made it with a snake head. And they made the pitcher plants look really evil, and they put them into this little glass house, like a little greenhouse. Really cute decoration, and I now keep this on my bookshelf as year round decoration. Let me put this on the floor before I drop it. But yes, oh man, no, I absolutely, we definitely love that. Um, oh, end of daylight savings time? Is it happening this upcoming weekend, or did it? Oh my gosh, uh, I think it's this upcoming weekend, right? It's like always the first weekend of November. Or am I completely? Oh, okay, cool. I was like, I don't think I missed it. But yeah, oh man. Uh, yeah, shorter days, definitely. We spent the weekend actually moving a lot. Well, we had a really great week here in New York City. We had days that were 70, 75, and then we even had a day that we hit 80. So it was beautiful this last week. So I've had all the windows open. I have not, and it's been raining a lot, so the humidity has been, the levels have been really high. So I've just had the windows open. I have not had to turn on any humidifiers or any space heaters. Uh, Everybody's been really nice and comfy. Um, Everybody's happy right now. And so, oh gosh, I keep getting up to show you because again, all my plants are spread around. But our Choco actually put out another leaf. So she came with two leaves, but it looks like the mother leaf, the original leaf, closed. So this was one of her original leaves, and this is her newest leaf. Isn't she beautiful? Oh my gosh. And the red especially is here on the back. You can really see that red on the back of the leaf. Absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Um, I really, really love this plant, and it has um another growth coming in, so we'll watch out for that. But oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Watching, and it was starting to open up, and then it opened up this week, and really excited because it was taking a while. It stayed in its kind of like unfurled look for a very extended amount of time, and I was hoping that it wouldn't start to drop because that can happen. So if you have your plants, they're about to put out a new leaf, and then there's a very drastic fluctuation of either humidity or temperature, it can cause damage to those new leaves, and sometimes the plant will actually just kind of cut it off. So essentially kind of go, okay, this is probably not the best time for me to be putting energy into this new leaf, and the leaf will just be allowed to kind of shrivel up, um, and it's really terrible. Or if they do open up, especially with aeroids, a lot of plants that have very fine leaves, you might notice there might be tears in a brand new leaf. You didn't even touch it, and there's splits in it and things like that. And so yeah, they what happens is that because of the humidity, if it drops, it actually dries out, because it's they're twirled up, and so it starts to kind of dry out these edges. So as it comes out, it causes them to kind of split, and you have a really wonky looking leaf, unfortunately. But yes, um, let me see here. And oh yeah, holly. Yes, that it's definitely a plant to appreciate. Definitely. Adeline, could you review the best container and soil for Christmas cactus? Yeah, sure. So blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me start that again. Christmas cacti. So they are an epiphytic cacti. They are a rainforest cacti where they also tend to grow in very kind of like in crevices on rock faces and things like that. But it's places with higher humidities. So it's not like a desert where they are originally growing. And so what's happening is that a lot of folks end up getting them and they treat them like a regular, well, we'll call them, I have to put quotes there, in regular, a terrestrial cacti, let's say, that is from an arid climate. Um, and so what ends up happening is they're treating it the same as these cacti that don't really need that much water, and then you start to lose the plant, unfortunately. But then on the other side of the coin, sometimes people do get them and they're in flower and they don't even realize that they're a cactus. And they just assume, oh, okay, I'm going to treat it just like every other tropical house plant that I have. And maybe they water their plants once a week. And so they start doing that to the poor rainforest cacti. And if let's say it's a little cooler, it's not you're not in a place where it can completely dry out within that week's time, it ends up being overwatered. So you have to kind of find a happy medium. So with some of the best containers when they're young, I would say, is a nursery pot. Just keeping it in a nursery pot is probably going to be the best route, because then you are ensuring that it's not going to dry out completely. But if you are keeping it in a nursery pot, do keep in mind, I forgot to silence my cell phone. Sorry, I got a notification. But do keep in mind that if it is a plastic container, on one side it's great because it's going to hold on to moisture a little longer for that younger plant. A lot of younger plants tend to need a little bit more moisture than their mature counterparts. But if you know that, then I would say, if you have them in a nursery pot, you can end up watering them about every 10 to 14 days. So you want to make sure it's dry before you're watering again. I recommend bottom watering. As the plant gets larger, you could switch to a terracotta pot when it's ready to be kind of upgraded. You can absolutely do so, but keep in mind, terracotta, there's much more gas exchange, so a lot more oxygen, which is great. The plant very much appreciates that. Um, but it's also very good at wicking water away from the soil and kind of putting it back as the soil starts to dry. So your soil might dry out a little bit faster at that point. So it still might be about 10 days. Um, but if you live in a climate where, you're putting it outside or something like that, then you might indeed need to water it like once a week. But terracotta can work when they're older. And yeah, keeping around that 10-day, 14-day mark for watering them. If it is like, again, if you're in a place where it's summer and it's like the sun and this thing dries out in a matter of days, you will probably have to give it a little bit of a bottom water, or it will start to shrivel. And one great thing about these types of cacti is that they do indicate when they're dehydrated. They do get wrinkles. So if you look at them and you're like, whoa, like it kind of has like a stippling, has like a ripple kind of in it, and that tells you that it's actually very, very thirsty. You don't want to really get it to that point, but it will indicate if it is not getting enough water. So you don't have to worry about that. But an indicator that it's getting too much water, it will start to turn kind of like jelly-like. It might turn yellow. Um, it might turn big sections might start to turn brown or black and then kind of like fall off. And you might also have like an odor. So just be careful with watering and the container. Now, for to have them, let's say, in what type of soil. So they are an epiphytic cactus. You do want to definitely make sure that it's something very airy. So you do not want to put them in something that, let's say, that is all brown, like a peat. That holds way, way too much moisture, and that's not going to work for them. Usually they're growing like in trees or in like crevices of rocks. So you want to give them something that has like, you can mix something like an aroid mix if you it with like perlite and perlite, maybe even a little bit of wood chips. You could do something like that. But if you were starting from zero, and let's say you don't have access to an aroid mix that has a couple things already in there, you can do something like a coco coir, a succulent mix with some perlite. You can add another type of grit. So something like crushed pumice, or now you can find things like crushed leca or bonsai mix, right? That just adds a little bit more texture and kind of rockiness to the mix. And I mean, if you're gonna also, you could add like 1 or 2 teaspoons of worm castings. You don't want to really over fertilize these plants, um, but give them a little bit of nutrition, and worm castings works really well. But just something that's kind of very airy, right? That there's gonna be a lot of air pockets. It's not gonna become like a muddy mess. So that's the best approach for them. But you can, make a really, really good mix. I mean, these plants, Christmas cacti, they are very long-lived. If you do want to, for Christmas and Thanksgiving cacti, if you do want to get them to bloom, you're going to want to give them shorter days. And so they're going to need, I think it's 16 hours, if I'm remembering correctly, of darkness. So some people do this by putting the plant in the closet. Um, some people put them in like grow tents that are completely like closed off, so it's completely dark for 16 hours. Some people have this down to a science. Um, Sometimes it just happens during the winter because we're having less light, and that ends up. It's just, yep, keeping it like between 68 and 70. And with 16 hours, will tend to start to prompt those flower buds to start to form. And once those flower buds start to form, you definitely don't want to change anything. So don't decide to move that plant to a different place. Don't switch up your watering like, drastically as it is during that time, because this is usually happening in the winter. Don't increase your temperature where the plant is. So once those flower buds, any change will cause them to drop. So if you start to give the plant more sun, they will drop. If you don't give the plant enough water, it will drop. If you give it too much water, it'll drop. Uh, yeah, it's such a heartbreak. So a lot of folks, it starts to flower and you think, oh, wow, this is beautiful. I'm going to put it on my dining room table as like a centerpiece. But once you move it, it can very quickly just deteriorate all those blooms and all the blooms will just drop. So I've learned that over the years. Um, yeah, and so very airy soil. Nursery pot when young, terracotta works great as they start to kind of fill out a little bit and soil the and yeah and care yeah so they oh one big thing too so as rainforest cacti a lot of epiphytic cacti they are not made for really strong intense sunlight. These are plants that are usually in the canopy in the tree canopy, so they're being shielded by all these leaves of the tree. They're kind of using the tree as a scaffolding, as a place for them to hang on and grow. But they aren't hurting the tree, and the tree is definitely giving them that layer of protection. So they're not getting really full on light. So one big issue is blushing. So what happens is that folks put that little Christmas cacti, let's say, in a southern window or right up against a western window. And what ends up happening is it starts to turn kind of pink, has like an odd color. I actually have a really good example of this. So I just picked up on Friday, I picked up these two Ripsalis from someone here in Queens, and she gave them away for free. She didn't know what they were, but they weren't doing very well, and so she wanted them to find a good home, and so I picked them up. And I once I picked them up, I realized why they weren't doing well, and it's because they were being put. They're starting to. The color is starting to come back to green because I have them pulled away from this western window. So it's starting to look green again. Um, so it's not too prominent anymore, but you can kind of see some of that red, and it has some of the sections are still a little bit yellow, so it's not as dark here. I think this one has a little bit more. It was very yellow, and had like a bunch of sections that were really red. So it's starting to kind of turn back to a green, a green color. Um, and yes, so this can happen. And this is an example of a rainforest cacti. So Ripsalis are also rainforest cacti. Uh, Ripsalis is one of my favorite genera. So my tops are like Euphorbia, Ripsalis, and Peperomia. So um so yes, these poor guys were baking. They were baking in the window. And so I needed to pull them away from direct light for a little bit. Uh, and you can see, and you can save the plant. So it's not that, oh my gosh, my plant turned orange or turned, it's usually in that spectrum of color. So it's kind of like pink, into oranges, into reds, that you might start to see. Sometimes it will even turn yellow. Um, but you can save the plant. Just pull them away from that sunlight into an area where they're getting indirect light. They do want sunlight, but they just can't take it super head on like that. Um, so yeah, but like something like a northeast window would work really beautifully for these guys. Here I am acclimating them in the living room with away from the western window, so they are getting some sunlight. They also get the ambient light from this grow light station I have here. But I am planning to put these in the bedroom, and so where we have some southeast light, uh, but it's not as strong as like a regular southern window. So uh, yeah. So, but But yeah, that's actually a really good example of blushing because it can happen. So it is starting to turn green again, and you will see it in a matter of days. It's a very quick change. So don't worry about that. Terry, oh my gosh, my Christmas cacti already has 25 buds. That's amazing. Brenda, what about ceramic containers for Christmas cacti? Would that help keep the moisture in comparison to a terracotta pot? Yes. So a ceramic container would, but then you would have to be very meticulous about how much water you're adding. Um, a lot of ceramic containers sometimes don't end up having drainage holes, for instance. So that's something to keep in mind. If it does have drainage holes, ceramic or like all those glazed, those really cool, like shiny type of containers, they do tend to lock in moisture a little longer, which means you won't have to water as often. So just keep that in mind. That it might take a little bit longer for it to dry before it needs to get watered again. So if you've had some people keep Christmas cacti like in a container like that for years, but it's because they know exactly how much water to add. They know how much, how often, and so it's kind of come down to a science. And so if you're able to do that, that's totally fine. Um, but yeah, if you are gonna do ceramic, I would say make sure it has holes. Make sure it has holes. And then just keep in mind, do get like a moisture meter, or you can use your finger and just stick it in to see if the soil is actually still wet, even a little deeper, um, to see if it's ready, to see if it's ready. Gabby, I don't know what to do about my ailing aloe. Can I show it to you? Sure thing. Oh no. Hold on, let me find you here in the participants. Where'd you go? Uh, Let me see here. Haha, here we go. Hi.
Oh
Oh
my
no.
God. I don't actually, this is like this too much fun here. All right, let me move. So this this pot was I had an aloe. I had like a big aloe, and I separated it into two two pots. The other one's doing amazing. This one was doing very well for a very long time, like a couple of years. It is now like so skinny. Look at this. It's like curled up
Yeah.
stuff. And it's kind of got like a rosy, like brownish. It's like not looking great. Um I from some recommendations from my friends, they told me maybe I just need to change the soil. And you know what? Also, let me say that it was not doing great, but then by accident, I knocked it down and like it all fell apart. And you'll see there's like a little bruise, a little war wounds over here. And it's just never been the same since it fell. But now, so I did change the soil and I mixed perlite in it. I don't know if I gave enough perlite, but I mixed a lot in. And so this was last week, and the soil is still damp from a week. I don't know what I should do. I
Okay.
feel like this is just gonna die, and I'm just gotta be okay with it.
So a couple things that could be happening. So firstly, that sign when a leaf starts to kind of envelop on itself like that, like a taco, like a taco, that usually is a very great good indicator of dehydration stress.
Really,
So where yes.
that's
Now,
what I thought.
yeah, and you said that it has like a pink, was it a pink kind of rosy?
Yeah, like a rosy tinge.
Yeah.
It's not green like it should be, you know?
Yes. And
Mhm.
so that usually is also an indicator of dehydration stress. And you might be thinking, well, I mean, the soil's wet, right? Like,
Yeah,
what do you
yeah.
mean it's dehydrated? It could be that there's an issue with the roots. And so the roots themselves are not imbibing the water. So they're not working as they should. And so therefore, even though it has water available, it's not using that water. And so the plant itself is going, oh my God, I'm so thirsty, even though there's water available. So a couple things could be happening there. So it could have just been that once it got separated, it's just, sometimes it's like failure to thrive. It's just like it might have sustained a lot of damage to the roots that it hasn't been able to kind of compensate for.
Was good for a long time when I separated it because the
Okay.
two parts got way too big for the pot. And then when I repotted it last week, I went through the roots and I like, I saw some of them were I pulled out the dead ones and
Oh,
like
okay.
so it seems okay.
Okay. So if you did
Some roots
see,
that were big and strong, and other ones were just like hair like, I guess. So
hmm okay, so that is a good sign. So if you've already checked out your roots and you remove some dead ones, um, so that could also be it. Transplant stress, uh, that that is a factor. Transplant stress, and also when we are running our hands through those roots, we actually slough off a lot of those really sensitive root hairs.
hmm.
And so what ends up happening is that it takes a little bit for the plant to kind of bounce back. So usually, and don't panic, don't panic. But usually when you are going to replant, so like repot a succulent, so it tends to be like this can be with aloes or with some type of cacti or euphorbia. What you typically do is to kind of prep for it is you water them, then you wait a few days um, until it's almost dry. It's still a little bit wet. And then when you repot, you don't water them for 7 to 10 days.
Mm, mm.
So you don't water them because their roots are getting damaged. Even if you're trying to be gentle, their roots are going to be damaged with that transfer. And so because there's going to be so many open wounds, you don't want to then put water in there because it could lead to infection, it could lead to root rot. So usually kind of give them like dry, you kind of let them like dry so that they can kind of it's called oh my gosh, the word it's not scab, but it's basically that where it's causing them to kind of scab those seal those wounds, right? The actual term just escaped me, but yes, so it could also be that that it kind of got it was transplanted, it's added on a little bit of stress. Also the falling can cause some stress to the plant, and then it's been sitting in some moisture, and so yeah. um
So I didn't water it. It's just that when I repotted it, the
oh,
soil
the
was a
soil
little
itself was already moist.
was already, yeah, because
Yeah.
it was in a new bag.
Yes, yes, and they tend to hold into that
Yeah.
humidity.
And so
um
it's still like still a little moist, not like super, but like it's like
it's like
it's
damp, it's like a dampness kind
like a
of.
little bit like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never watered it. And then I wanted to ask about this.
Okay. Yes.
Succulent
um
plant food. Is this worth using?
I would dilute it several times
Okay.
before giving it to the plant. So a lot of succulents, they don't really want to be fertilized,
Yeah.
um, because they come from areas where they get very low nutrition. They don't have very big nitrogen spikes. Usually, how these plants are actually feeding themselves like fertilizer is when their own leaves are falling and start to rot and then become kind of compounds that they're able to take up, so that they're not actively like getting nitrogen from the soil around them. So you want to be very, very gentle. It's just when fertilizing succulents, and this includes cacti, you just want to keep in mind that you want to be very gentle. So if you do have that cactus food, if it says, let's say, oh, put it into 2 cups of water, let's pretend, I would say like 4 to 6 cups of water. So just add a little bit more. So it's just a little extra diluted, because there's just a higher likelihood that your plant might get burned, might get fertilizer burned, because what these fertilizers tend to have is they might have a little bit too high nitrogen, so it needs to be diluted a little bit. But they also have salts in there, like mineral salts. But what ends up happening is if your plant also, before any, I should say even before even applying any fertilizer, never apply fertilizer to it, like those types of liquid fertilizers, to a plant that's completely bone dry. And so, because if their roots are, let's say, parched because they're thirsty, and then you add that, the salts inside of those fertilizers will kind of leach more moisture out and can actually kill a bunch of your roots. Um, so you want to make sure that it's at least a little bit hydrated. Maybe you water them like the day before, like half of what you usually do, just so that there's some moisture in there, but they're not completely wet because you're going to be watering them again, um, using the diluted fertilizer mixed with water. So at least 24 hours before, make sure that you add a little bit of moisture. My worry is with that mix is, yes, a lot of those mixes, when you open them up, they're just locked in with moisture. Um, but that could be an indicator that that mix isn't airy enough. So if it didn't dry within that week of time, it could mean it doesn't have enough aeration in there. So maybe perlite. Um,
So can I add it to something that I already like kind of just scoop in some perlite, like mix it in the plant that's already potted?
yes. So I would say just do it very gently and carefully. I wouldn't recommend trying to repot it again. I think that,
No, no, no,
yeah,
right.
that would probably, like, so don't do that. Um, but yes, you can add it, but yeah, be very, 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 very gentle.
Mhm.
So that, if you do end up coming into contact with roots and it seems like the roots are somehow compromised right now. Because if there even is moisture in the soil that even came with the bag, it
Right.
should have been using it. But it's very much showing, it's very indicative right now, the way that the plant looks, that it's not taking in water. Um, and so that means there's something misfiring in the root system. So we don't want to cause more damage to the roots, but at the same time, yeah, add a little bit more
And I
more.
don't want to water it because
Yeah,
it's
don't water.
right. So I should still wait. So I'm not going to use this for
Yeah, don't
a
wait, yeah.
while. I'm just I'm gonna maybe add some perlite, and I'm also going to just let it dry, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then I can water it when it's like bone dry, like dry, if it's still alive.
Yes, yes. And I would say for now also, don't put it in a really intense sunlight right now, because
Mhm.
that's going to lead it to dehydrate even more,
Okay.
because the leaves are going to keep trying to photosynthesize. And then when they photosynthesize, the leaves themselves they're losing water.
Yeah.
Um, so if it's not replenishing that water, it's like working and kind of like running out of gas. Um,
Right.
so you
Right.
could keep it in like indirect light, um, just a little bit more pulled away than you might usually. Just I wouldn't put it up like in a really sunny window right now.
I'm just gonna show you what my window looks like. So I have I face south. But you'll notice I have the
Yes.
bottom like with this film on it.
Uh-huh.
So all my plants are like down there and seem to be doing well, but like I get really strong sun, like really strong sun. So even in front of the windows that have the the film on it, they still get super sun. So maybe I'll just keep this like in the middle, further back in the room. Um,
Yeah, so you definitely want it to get that indirect light, so that you don't want to put it in like a cool dark place, because that definitely won't help the soil in drying out. And it'll keep it moist a little bit longer. But so you kind of want to find like a happy medium where it's getting a little bit of light and it's in a warm kind of place in comparison. But yeah, that the big thing is for it to dry out, and the roots just kind of have to replenish themselves a little bit. So I would wait until it dries out to water again. Um, Hopefully by then it's already starting to push out what they call like adventitious roots. So kind of just like the bare minimum of roots it'll start to produce before those it starts pushing out like soil roots.
and for
Um,
the next time that I, once that all happens and I feel confident about watering it, should I bottom water it or should I?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, I would say bottom water. Um, Especially if you saw that you had some like big healthy roots in there.
Yeah,
Because
I had some. I mean, they were shorter. The healthy ones were shorter.
oh, okay.
The strap
Okay. So
ones
if
were
they're
long.
shorter, if there's some shorter, I would say you could do top watering, but just try to go around the circumference of the pot. So don't water just like one little section. So just kind of be very mindful of going around, because you don't know kind of what direction they're pointing.
Right.
And so because it's the you get the primary roots, so it's like a big, here, and then there's the secondary roots that kind of come off, and then there's like the tertiary roots that come off of that. So it's usually those secondary and tertiary, and sometimes like I forgot what the four one is, but those are the ones that are actively pulling up water and nutrients. So it's usually not the big chunky ones that are initially come out.
Right.
So they come out from there. But if they are kind of short, the bottom watering, yeah, then you
Okay.
should definitely kind of but go around the perimeter, and make sure that it's coming out through the drainage holes. You can do a 45-degree tilt as well to get any excess water out. Um,
Okay.
so if it's watering and then you kind of do a tilt, and you'll see like a bunch of water come out. So you just want any excess water to spill out. You don't want to keep it in there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That was
You're
very
very welcome. Let me know. Keep us updated.
helpful. Okay, I will. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Oh, Adeline, what would you say about a cactus and succulent soil? About cactus and succulent soil for a Christmas cacti, and add what? Yes, so you could use a base of cactus or succulent soil. Absolutely. Um, I would say though to maybe add, you could add a little bit of like wood chips. So like the orchid bark works really well for Christmas cacti. Um, you can even add like a little bit of cocoa coir. Sometimes some succulent mixes I have found just don't have enough perlite for my liking. Like they have perlite, but they're not as rich in perlite. I used to use what are you guys doing? Sorry, my cats. Um I had previously used like like before I started making my own soils, I would use like the Miracle Grow succulent mix. Um and one that held in way too much moisture. I think it had way too much peat in it. But then also it just didn't barely had any perlite. Like it had perlite sprinkled. It was more like sprinkled in there rather than a really nice portion of it. So I would always have to supplement with perlite. I've tried different succulent mixes over the years, like I think Ox Farms, I think was another one I've tried. Um, I've tried like different ones like that, and then eventually I just said, well, I could just get the components, and then I can make any type of soil that I want. So since we have succulents, we have like a lot of aeroids, so that ended up just being the more cost effective option for us, because it's like we would still have to end up supplementing with some of those, but yeah. Um, and oh, and so yes, so if you get a succulent soil, just check to see if it has enough perlite in it. Make sure it doesn't really have that much peat. You can try to avoid peat. Something like cocoa coir in there. You can add a little bit of orchid bark in there. Um, you can add other types of things too, like if you have some leftover leca, if you have like crushed granite or crushed pumice. So that tends to be a nice thing to make it very airy. But they do appreciate like a little bit of moisture, so that's why having like the wood chips in there, it's very similar almost to like a like there are some like terrestrial orchids and things like that. Yeah, it's like a very airy mix with like some wood chips in there. Holly, getting my mind ready for the change. Oh, because the cold is coming. I wonder if you would oh yeah, Terry. Oh yeah, absolutely. If Terry, if you want to show your buds, definitely let me know. Barbara, yes, I see your hand is raised. Hold on one second. Let me find you. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Okay, hi.
Hi, this is great. Glad to see you. Yeah, the same kind of question. I have not had good results with the regular moisture grow succulent soil. I've killed not knowing. They got it just stayed very muddy, spongy, and
Yes.
I've killed batches like with kindness, but I have gone and actually purchased because I don't have any like sandy
Yes.
soil or sand to add into the container, the succulent standard container mix that says that it is, but it's really not enough. But if anybody has good clean sand or sandy soil, take it from where you are. If not, I actually went and bought it because I didn't know how clean it would be outside where I am. So that does work. But I want to show you, right, same kind of question. I have to not kill them with kindness. I love them. Not kill them with kindness. They're doing good right now. But things right. I usually
Oh yeah,
favor
the
the
moon cacti.
Yeah, I usually favor the terracotta and they stay good. And I've been bottom watering it, but I killed a peace lily recently because it was dry and collapsing all the time. And so I kept putting water in, but then at some point I mushed it. I couldn't, poor thing, I couldn't bring it back. Say a prayer. One that was not, I cut off the top and it's doing
Oh
better.
yeah, because of the squirrels, right?
Yes, I brought it in and it's really fine. It's really healthy. And I had quarantined it, so made sure I didn't have anything in. And I made drier soil for this guy. Same thing. The baby's doing good. And these babies are just they didn't seem to mind being brought inside with drier soil, right? Different soil. But these have no drainage, so these I put rocks in the bottom. And the other stuff, right? I said from my years and years of geraniums going and blooming all year round. Now I have 3 tiny twigs. Everything dies. I'm coming to the right, the sad ending. But we go again. And we hope it comes back. Christmas cactus. We try again. I have looks great right now. There are flower buds. Try to keep this one going. I had 2 more pots, which no, I don't have them anymore. I have 1. There's 3 babies in here, so we hope. I'm kind of afraid to transplant it because it's doing so great, but it needs soil at least to be lifted and put soil in the bottom. So I have to figure that out.
Yeah, you can.
It's a
I've seen folks that keep them in the same pot for like decades, and all
yeah,
they're
this
doing is kind of
right.
adding.
This is really there's nothing. It needs a bottom again, which I was
Yeah.
not planning to have it this way. This is kind of accidental because I was reviving this one, but it really needs either to be planted for real. I'm afraid to split it up, or just add to the bottom of this pot and see if the roots will grow down, tease them out. But yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And
You could definitely add that soil kind of around them, like backfill it.
yeah, you think that's what, good. That's what I was thinking. Good, thank you. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
so.
just make sure, yeah, a lot of grit so that it's not um covered in too much moisture. But yeah,
Yeah, that will be my thing to know the difference when I think that it's dry, to leave it alone a little longer. That's the
yeah.
hard part. When you love them and you're home with them. My sweet potato baby is going crazy. It's good.
Oh, look at the leaf.
Oh yeah, it's going crazy. It's
Oh,
going
that's
very happy.
awesome.
It is
I love
awesome.
sweet potatoes. I
Me
love
too.
the vines and
And
um
the white potatoes again, I'll see. There are baby potatoes under, but these have crazy roots. And
oh
we'll see. I just lifted one out. We'll see what we can get. If again, if they decide to stay with me. But these will be in a bucket if they get a little bigger. These will absolutely be in, buy a clean mopping bucket or something, whatever you guys can find that's cheap if you don't have one.
that works.
But a lot of fun. You can always grow potatoes in the winter in a pot, just for, if it's fun for you. It's always fun for me. My husband does not get into this at all. He thinks I should just say goodbye to, these are my toys. They're just my toys, but they're living things. So we try. Okay,
No,
thank you.
exactly. Oh, you're very welcome. No, yeah, absolutely. It's like
Thank
I
you.
want to grow more like kitchen scraps like garlic and um I want to play around more with them and I hope when we have a bigger space I'd really like to get like do you, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's like an upside down tomato thing. I've always seen it, and I'm forgetting the name. There's like a brand name. Is it? It's not Tomato Tower, but basically it's like an upside down tomato plant. And so it hangs down, and so it's allowed to kind of grow down. You can grow like your own cherry tomatoes and stuff indoors. Always wanted to play around with that. We use a lot
Oh,
of tomatoes
yeah, right,
here.
right. Could you give a minute to the garlic? Last year I did.
Uh-huh.
I separated a good head of garlic, and it didn't make it work indoors, so I didn't know really what else to do. But if you have any, I know they go outdoors like crazy, but indoors, like just for the winter, they didn't make it through the winter
No.
here. So
Oh.
should
Um,
I treat it more? Should we maybe treat it like a succulent, like in the dry soil? Maybe it was too wet, or maybe that it just wasn't going here. Maybe it just was too hot or too cold where I had them.
yeah, the few times that I have grown garlic, it always ends up I wait till I leave like the bulbs on a paper towel until I start to see that they start to sprout. Um, and so then when I'm putting them into the soil, yes, a very like well draining soil. I give them like an initial water, and then I was waiting for them to like completely dry out before watering them again. Um, and I was keeping them. There was a western window, because it's our kitchen. Yes, it's a western window. And so I didn't have them right up against the window, but like less than a foot away. I would say like maybe 6 to 8 inches away. So they were growing like right in front of the window. Um, yeah. Uh, but yes, I did notice that I wanted the ones that if I was like, oh, I'll give them some extra water, then it did not work. They needed to like dry out completely. So I think yeah, a combination of like a well draining mix, um, along with the watering, not being a little like being careful not to overwater. But yeah, and then yeah, but oof, it's been a little bit, but yeah, I would say probably just because of the bulb. So it's it's feeding the plant and stuff, but sometimes also any microbes or anything that's in the soil, kind of keeping too much moisture in there, especially if it hasn't really established its root system yet, and ends up kind of rotting the bulb faster than the bulb is able to actually like generate those roots and put out like the scape and put out all that. Um, but yeah, I hope that's helpful. It's been a bit.
It's
It's been a
great.
bit.
That was perfect what you said. Explained right. That's like the experience, but see if I can do better. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Good
Stay
luck.
great. Stay great. Stay great.
Holly, leca and rock chips to that soil. Yeah, you could add things like that. Leca and like rock chips. Yeah, you can definitely add like some more grit and things like that to the soil. I wouldn't put too much like those rocks. Leca is different, but because it's porous. But if we're talking about, let's say, like crushed granite or something like that where it's not porous, you don't want to put them on top of the soil where it's like there's no gaps. Because what could actually end up happening is that it would lock in that moisture. What? This is not a good idea, buddy. He's already even this morning I woke up to one of the plants tipped over because he's has this thing where he's wanting to like climb up here, and I don't understand because there's no room for him to climb up here. It's like literal shelves, like these little acrylic shelves, and the space is only this wide. So I don't know why he has got it in his mind that he wants to climb this. So he keeps tipping these over and causing a big mess. Go over there, buddy. I don't know why he's why he's doing that. But yeah, I did want to show you some really cool plants. Let me Maple, he's up here again. Look at this. All right, Maple. See? Oh, buddy. I love you very much. I love you very much. And I know you want some attention right now. But oh, okay. Let's try this again. Um, Let me see here. All right. Cool. So I just want to show you some cool plants. Let me put this up here. Aha! All right. I did want to show you a very quick lesson. Um, so succulent-like plants to add to your collection. And so what's cool is that so many of you are talking about very succulent-like, either cacti, right? Even rainforest cacti fall under there. And so this was pretty neat. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about just some examples of plants that are very similar to these in terms of care and water and lighting needs, but that they're not technically succulent. So they're succulent-like. So kind of for Halloween, they are wearing a costume. They look like they're not what they appear, basically. And so what is a succulent? What is a true succulent? Um it tends to be plants that are, might be in like arid or even semi-arid type of kind of environments where they need to store water. And this could be either for drier areas in terms of maybe not getting enough water consistently. This tends to be kind of like the evolutionary trajectory that a lot of plants have taken. And so we've seen a lot of examples of, for instance, of convergence, which is when plants that are not related in any way kind of came up with the same strategy. So we see this, for instance, with euphorbia, as well as with cacti. And so, like euphorbia, for instance, they are not cacti; they are stem succulents. They are not related to cacti, but they very much look like cacti, and they've also developed thorns. So they're not needles; they're not true. So with cacti, their cactus needles are actually modified leaves that are made to poke and protect the plant. While euphorbia does tend to still have leaves, but then they have, in addition, they have thorns as well. So they came to the same conclusion as to what they needed to do to survive, but they're actually not really. Oop, I think I froze for a second there. Oh, there we go. But yes, so they are not related, but they end up kind of looking very similar. So they just came up with the same conclusion. And so this is a phrase that you've probably heard before, but we're not sure who said it. So, but all cacti are succulents. So there's like succulents as an umbrella. So cacti fall under that. All cacti are succulents. However, not all succulents are cacti. So there are a lot of plants that they're not related in any way or form to cacti, but they do still fall in this realm of succulents. So again, just driving that driving that home. And then what is truly a cactus? And so um, they have succulent stems and branches and either scales or spines instead of leaves. So again, this is a big difference, right? Is that their needles are actually modified leaves. They are not, but cacti, I think other than one or two species, do not produce leaves. Um, so they usually do not produce leaves, and many of them flower, and they are gorgeous flowers. But yes, they don't typically have leaves. And interesting fact is that all true cacti are from the Americas, with one exception, which is the Rhipsalis spicifera, which grows in South Africa, I believe. And that's actually, a lot of these cacti are growing in Central and South America, and it's believed that when the continents split, that Rhipsalis kind of ended up on that side, because it's still there is Rhipsalis spicifera found in South America as well, but there's just one species of cacti that is found in Africa that's outside of the Americas. Otherwise, they are all from the Americas. But then you see all these other succulents that are found in Asia, and again, they look very much like cacti, and sometimes they're called cacti. So we see a lot of euphorbia, for instance. One of the common names for euphorbia is African milk cactus. But again, it's not a cactus. So it's just that common name that kind of happens there. And this is just an example of like an arid, kind of semi-arid type of living situation that a lot of these cacti and succulents kind of rose within these types of ecosystems, and they were able to adapt. Now, isn't always the case. There are indeed some rainforest cacti as well. Whoops, I went back. Sorry. So yeah, so what do we mean by succulent-like? And so these kind of species aren't true succulents in terms of like the family tree, but they have a lot of succulent features. So again, it's yet another example of kind of convergence. It's these plants that don't, they're not related in any way to cacti. They're not really related to any other succulent plants, but they have also adapted into these ecosystems. They've adapted this type of way to seal in that moisture because they're in areas, let's say they get a lot of high light situations, for instance. So they need to preserve some moisture, or else, let's say they would end up not getting enough water in the long run. So they need to be able to either they make themselves very waxy. This can also be something that would happen in high wind areas. So high winds actually cause dehydration. And so there you go. The plant needs to be able to do so. Needs to be able to protect its water supply. So we see this a lot with even like conifers and certain plants that are in mountain ranges. You see that those their leaves usually look very shiny or waxy, and they're sometimes even smaller. Like if you think pine needles and things like that, they're even smaller. So they have a smaller surface area, and they're like thicker. They're thicker than, let's say, like an oak leaf or something like that, right? It's a really, really interesting how the plants, kind of figure that out. So in terms of care, are like semi-succulents, like, is there a really big difference? If you are already having like cacti and succulents in your home, it's really cool because there's so many like oddball plants, and if you know me, I'm a fan of oddball plants. So so things like this, um, definitely catch my eye, and I have all of these in my own collection. And I wanted to kind of introduce you to just a few of them real quick. Because they're very similar to one of my loves, which are cacti and succulents. So because again, right up there are so I have so my favorite is euphorbia, which is a succulent. So it's a stem succulent, not a cacti. Then ripsalis, which is a cactus. It is in the cacti family. And then my third favorite is a peperomia, which is considered semi-succulent. So I like the top three, my top three favorite genera fall within this realm. And so I'm happy, when I can have them. Um let me see here. Yes. So here are some succulent semi-succulent uh members, that are within like the most common like house plant families. So dracaenas. So snake plants. So snake plants used to be called Sansevieria, but they have since been reclassified. So they are actually Dracaena, but they have evolved much thicker and succulent-like leaves. And so we see there are some Dracaena that are very thick, um, almost like comparable to, let's say, the yucca. Very, very comparable. Like they start to get these really thicker, glossy like leaves. They might have very, like the stems, and they can also go through longer periods of time without getting watered. So you see this a lot with some of those dracaenas that have a slightly thinner leaves. And then you get into this realm of these dracaenas that are just, oh my gosh, all different shapes and sizes. So one of the most popular ones is the trifasciata. So it used to be called Sansevieria trifasciata. Um, and it's like that typical snake plant that you see, right? The really thin kind of they're succulent leaves, but they have like the yellow line around them, and they have the lines uh going down, like the striping going down. But I want to show you, I really like the really odd types of Dracaena. So for instance, like this is the samurai. The samurai, I really like this. It's super, super cool. I have quite a collection of these at home. I really like these. This one. I really like how it's like interwoven. See how it grows. It's such a cool looking plant. Very, very, very spiky. So it can definitely stab you. Not where you'd actually injure yourself, but you do feel it. The Mikados, I really like these too. And these are called like the cylindrica. I have quite a few of these here in the house. I have like this, I think, three of them in the house. And then the one that I couldn't grab because there wasn't room on my desk. So hold on, let me just shimmy over here. Here we go. This is probably one of my favorite. Um, and this is the they call it the copper tone, and this is like fully solid, like fully solid. This isn't it's you can see it's like a fully solid thing. It did produce a a baby. So this is the baby. It's separated here. So this is the pup. But this whole thing is solid, but it grows in this gorgeous, ruffled, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is from last winter. I did not move it away from my heater in time, and so the poor thing got a little burnt. But it's been fine. It didn't really phase it other than kind of slightly burning it. Um, it has been growing and putting out more growth. So putting out the pup and everything. So I absolutely love this. If you've never seen these, check them out. You're in for a treat. And I love just the coloring. It's so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. So yeah. Finn says, I doubt you've ever met a plant you didn't really like. Yeah, I think that's very true. I always find something that appeals to me about the plant, definitely. I'm gonna put that down here so it's safe. But yeah, so I wanted just to show you a really cool um Dracaena there. Now, these are very low maintenance. I water a lot of my little ones because they're small, so they do tend to need a little bit more water than the larger ones. I do water them about every 2 to 3 weeks. So still, those little guys, I'm not watering them that often. But the larger ones, like my copper tone, I have some big snake plants in our house. I actually water them only once a month. So I don't they're not watered on a weekly basis. They will rot. So you don't want to do that. Also, just be mindful that they are toxic. So as cool as they are, usually because of their shape, it's not something that tends to attract like dogs and cats. Cats especially like fluffy things, like spider plants are very attractive to cats and things like that. Like palms and things, it's like very fluttery. So the cats definitely get an interest in them. But if you have a cat that just doesn't mind, it just kind of goes for any plant. Uh, these are slightly, they are toxic. In terms of like fatality, I mean, the animal would have to eat like a substantial amount. I actually found out when I was in El Salvador that Dracaena, this is actually commonly given to dogs and even people when they are accidentally poisoned. So this is in the it's related to what's it called? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the other species that it's related to. But basically, this can cause like skin irritation, and it can irritate like the gastrointestinal system. And so if somebody, let's say, because that's unfortunately something that happens a lot in Central America. I'm not sure if it happens. I just know personally from family that in Costa Rica and in El Salvador, it's very, very common for people to poison other people's dogs, or especially stray dogs. And so this has become a remedy where if the dog appears to have been poisoned, they will take a leaf and chop it up, and or even put it in a blender and then mix it with water and give it to the animal or the person. And this it would start to induce vomiting, so it would start to induce purging. And then this is what can potentially save the animal because it induces this kind of emetic response, which means to make you throw up. Uh, so I didn't even realize that, but apparently that is a common remedy, and a lot of these, oh my gosh, these were growing just wild, in both Costa Rica and El Salvador, and it's kind of used like that. So they're kind of using the toxicity as something to help. So I just wanted to show you a couple examples here, but you see like the marginatas, which are like the more tree-like, very tree-like. Then the kind of cylindrica, which I love. I just love the spikiness. And a lot of these, they're actually they're usually when you get them in a pot initially, they're all separated. They're actually all separate plants. Then as it grows, they do put out pups. But when you initially get them, oh, oh, there we go. I don't know why my signal, I keep freezing. Sorry about that. But I originally, like my first cylindrica, when I bought it, it was not looking very good. And so I had bought it on clearance. And I decided I was going to repot it because the mix it was in, it was like peat and cocoa coir. It was like black soil. It was just, there was no perlite in sight. It was just really holding in moisture. And I was like, this poor thing is going to rot. So I took it out, and this was many years ago. Um, and I still have that plant. Gosh, it's like one of my oldest plants. and I took it out and it had no roots. The poor thing, all of the roots had sloughed off. It was nothing. And they were all separate plants. And so I repotted them into really, really airy mix. And yeah, it started producing pups. And I've had that plant, gosh, for years now. It's happily living in our kitchen window. And yeah, they are kind of slow growing, but once they really start to put out pups, you'll really start to see. And they do appreciate a nice amount of sunlight. The ones with the thicker, like these like snake plants, they can handle more light in comparison to, southern light might be a little bit too strong. But western light, they can handle like higher amounts of light. And then there's like the other ones, here, these dracaenas, uh, where they have like thicker kind of trunks, so they tend to also be, you don't have to water them as often, but their leaves are a lot thinner. And these tend to be very good, like they're very low maintenance, so they're great for like office plants and things like that. They don't appreciate rapid drops in humidity. The ones that are much more like the more leafier dracaenas, they do not appreciate drops in humidity though. So I wouldn't recommend something like putting them by a drafty window in the winter or putting them by like a door that's constantly being opened. They will start to crisp. The ends will start to crisp. I've learned that the hard way. So you want to keep them in a place that's pretty level, in terms of temperature fluctuations and humidity. I did want to just show you ponytail palms. So also awesome plants. They do store their water. They're in their caudex, like a caudiciform, and they're non-toxic. So if you do want something that you don't have to worry if your dogs or cats or even small children get into, uh, ponytail palms are beautiful. They really are. And here's an example of one of my ponytail palms. I have quite a few here. They're one of my favorite plants. Um, and here I water it about once a month, the bigger ones. And here you can see that this one I had let a little bit longer than a month, um, and it was a little dehydrated. So you can kind of see where it started, it stopped, it didn't look like a globe anymore. One of the common names for ponytail palms are actually the elephant foot plant. And you can see that the elephant foot is looking a little rough here. And so I took this before picture, and you can see how airy my mix is. I do have some horticultural charcoal in there too. And then after watering it, after 24 hours, I took another picture, and you can just see literally inflated. So it imbibes this water, takes in this water, and it uses that as a storage organ. So it's super cool. It's super cool to see. I like caudiciform plants. So I love plants that do this. It's super cool to look at. And just so that you see how they end up looking like when some folks in like Florida, in warmer areas, you're able to actually grow these outside. Um, and they grow just wonderfully. I love the base. I think the base just looks so amazing. And they put out this like spray of, like, I think they're like a cream colored flower. It's really beautiful. And it's just a great plant to have, very low maintenance. And you don't have to worry again if any of your, pets start to chew on the ends or anything like that. They just make a really awesome plant, and very, very, very low maintenance. So I have, for instance, this little guy. Let me, there we go. I have, well, for example, this little guy here, and I keep him behind behind with all my other succulents. And I absolutely love this. It just has this little, like a little bulb there. And I got this fairly recently. I think I got this guy like 2 months ago. He was looking kind of rough, and I think I got him, what, it was like $3 or something, from Home Depot. And I put him into this. I already had this from previous purchases. So I was like, oh, this would be so he's in a nursery pot, which is stuck right now to the inside of this pot. I was watering them yesterday. Here we go. So it isn't a nursery pot. This is just a cash bow. So it's just a decorative pot. And yeah, but this little guy, and he's gonna need to be upgraded fairly soon. So he is also in a mix, as you can see. I was just letting him kind of acclimate, get used to everything before I really start to mess with it. Um, but you can see that the roots are pretty substantial there. But you can look at the mix. So this mix is also like peat and cocoa coir. So it's too brown. There's not enough perlite in there. It can hold too much water if, let's say, I were to overwater it. But because I am watering this guy like every 3 weeks, it's definitely drying out, and they have the light, so they're getting enough light. They are using up that water, but it is going to have to be moved, upgraded fairly soon, because it's growing out. It's growing out of this little nursery pot. But yeah, it's a cool little plant, and I have a couple of these here. I really like them. My cats definitely do go after them, because it's very frilly. It's very frilly. And so folks, yeah. Oh yeah, Gabby asked how often should you water a snake plant? Yeah, so when they're tiny, like these little guys, I water these every 2 to 3 weeks. So um I only water them every 2 to 3 weeks. And the bigger ones, like my taller ones, those I water about once a month. If sometimes during the winter though, in our apartment, so usually in the winter you want to water your plants less often, but you're lowering the frequency and also the amount of water as well. Uh, but in our home during the winter, it does get very dry in terms of like the humidity, so we have to supplement that. But we don't get very cold inside the apartment. So outside, of course, is freezing. But here, this building, I don't know why the landlord has the heater like cranked up. So as soon as it hits 55 outside, it turns on, and it can get like 80, 90 degrees in our home, where in the winter we tend to leave our windows open, because it gets so hot in here. So sometimes during the winter, I will find myself watering, the plants, because they'll get bone dry really fast. So I end up like watering some of my snake plants like every 3 weeks or so, if it's like really, really hot. But yeah. Um, and oh, Darlene, I'm glad that yeah. So Darlene says that they didn't start blooming until I took them away from artificial sunlight after sundown. They didn't bloom for years until until I said that they needed darkness at night, and you use plant lights now. That's so great. I'm so happy that yeah, they've bloomed for you. Oh yes, Holly, yes, yes, yes. I'll email you. I will absolutely email you. And Tanya, do cylindrica, so like the cylinder snake plants, require more light or water than the flat ones? Um, Actually, I find that like I have my cylindricas. I have one in a southeast window, and the one here I have back here, and then I have one, yes, in my kitchen window, which is a western light, and that's the oldest one I have. Um, I mean, I don't necessarily, I think they might need less water, quite honestly, but I water my cylindrica like in the kitchen when I remember. Uh, so I mean, I try, I need to, I used to have a whole spreadsheet system, but once we started getting so many plants, like we have hundreds of plants, um, we have well over 200 plants. And so then I stopped doing that because I couldn't keep up. So now I kind of tell myself, okay, I watered this section. So when I start watering a section, I group plants together that need similar watering needs, so that therefore I'm able to say, okay, like these guys I watered yesterday. So then I can go, okay, so I need to know that like 2 weeks from now, I will check this section and see if they need a little bit of water. If they're pretty good, I'll wait another week. But I kind of do it this way. So I'll go, okay, that section, I watered it the first week of November, let's say. And so then that's how I end up remembering. So with yeah, with a lot of the plants in our kitchen are like succulents. So yeah, it's when I at least once a month. Sometimes it goes like up to 6 weeks before I water that cylindrica. But yeah, I think it definitely they need a little bit. I guess they can do better with less water. In terms of light, though, I mean, I have them pretty much in similar light situations, so I feel like they would be more resilient to stronger light. I don't know if they necessarily need the stronger light, but they are up for it. Some of those flatter types of snake plants could burn. So they are more likely to burn. Um, so but yeah, I think the cylindrica would kind of put up with it a little bit. Synth, do many of them contain latex? I'm severely allergic to latex. Oh, great question. So I don't think so cacti don't usually have any like sap and things like that. The snake plants don't. Ponytail palms don't either. Uh Now euphorbia do have a milky sap, but I don't think it's technically latex. But they do have a milky sap that it's very irritating to the hand, so you don't want to get it on your hand, and you absolutely do not want to get it in your mouth or in your eye. So if you're ever transplanting your euphorbia, and you should wear gloves. Let's say you forgot your gloves and you got some on your hands, you're gonna want to wash your hands with cold water, and make sure you don't accidentally rub your eye or anything like that. There have been reports, especially in Africa, where it's more prominent, of blindness, of getting the sap in your eye and going blind in that eye. So yes. Um, Holly is the yucca plant and in outdoor plant. I like that one. Oh yeah, with yucca, it is outdoors in like a warmer environment. No, you could put it outdoors. Let's say if you're living in New York during the summer. I have like a little yucca here. Doop, 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 doop. I'm also acclimating it. So this was also another one that I picked up from that same lady, with the Ripsalis. Um, so she, yeah, she was like, I can't take care of these plants. They don't seem happy. And so she was giving them away for free. I was like, sure. Um, but yeah, this is a yucca, and you can see that it is very, it does have it's like thicker. It's not as succulent, but it is thicker. These do feel like a little more succulent. So, but yeah, some of the new growth is a little more supple. Um, but it's a cool plant. I do like it a lot. Um, and yeah, it can go much longer without water, and it can handle pretty strong direct light. So you wouldn't really have to worry too much about that. Darlene, I had a beautiful ponytail plant, but instead of growing out like in your photo, mine got bent on the leaves and just hung down. Interesting. I then forgot to water it before vacation, and after that it died. Oh, I've never heard of them growing kind of like horizontally or downward. That's really interesting. It could have been sometimes like the light situation, maybe. Um, Phyllis, do you ever live transplant a plant on your live broadcast? I think I have before, but I could totally do that. So I can try to see who needs to get repotted and then try to time it. And so I'll have like all of them kind of ready to go, and I could totally do it during the call so that you guys can see what I do. Um, and Gabby, is it bad if a snake plant curls? Ah, like a taco, like the aloe. Um, Yes, and so that tends to be mean that it is thirsty. So it starts to kind of curl inward. And so this is again like a typical thing that some plants, not all plants, but a lot of plants will do when they are just dehydrated to the point where their leaves will kind of just curve. Yeah, and then oh, specifically the pencil plant. Yeah, I think the pencil plant, because there's a lot of pencil plants. But I think the pencil plant you're talking about is the Euphorbia trichale. Is it this one? It's so funny because I literally have like these plants that everyone's we're talking about. And so I keep just getting up and grabbing one. It's like, oh yeah, you want to talk about this plant? Sure, I got it. But yeah, so this is also called a pencil plant, also called fire sticks. And so yeah, this it has a bunch of leaves. I really love this plant. It was flowering for me, and now it has all this new growth. Look at all the new growth. You can see the difference between like the original and all the new growth. But this is a euphorbia, so this falls within that family, and all of that new growth, like really bright green with those leaves. It's very, very happy in my western window. Um, but yes, this is a member of the Euphorbia family, which means that if you do cut it, it does have that white sap, so it could irritate you. Again, I don't think it's true latex. Like I don't think it's actual latex, but it does have a very irritating sap. I can't remember the chemical compounds, the name of the chemical compounds. But yeah. Um, oh, Darlene, did you rearrange everything behind you? Yes, yeah, because I watered yesterday. So so I did some rearranging. I also grabbed some of the plants that were back here and I put them on my desk so I could show them. So there's a couple missing empty spaces of plants that I keep back here. But I moved on my desk because I knew I was going to talk about them. But then here are a lot of my succulent cuttings, and um so a few weeks back I had shown that I had gotten some some cuttings that I had ordered. And so were rooting and stuff in leca, and I started putting them back here. Some of them are in pon. So they're in pon. And so I have basically a little reservoir, and then these have holes at the bottom, and then I just keep them like that. And so yeah, so I these are all new. These I had them kind of like in containers, and then I split them up into individual little cups yesterday. So yes, this is all new. That's all new. Um, but yeah. Okay, so I guess so they do call so Sim says that when she looked up pencil cactus, it says it has a poisonous latex. So I guess that's what that the white sap is considered a latex. But yeah, it's definitely it's like a white sap. Oh, bye, Suzanne. Bye. All right, thank you, Sim. Yes, so it is latex. Um, but yeah. And Darlene, great. So says that my snake plant was curling, and after watering, the leaves went back to flat. Oh yeah. Oh, Terry, that's a good one. Terry's asking, can you demonstrate how to separate rhizomes? I have a large, beautiful ZZ plant, but the rhizomes are so large they are distorting the nursery pot. Oh yeah. Um, I have my Raven ZZ. It's coming up. It's coming up where I think I'm gonna have to upgrade it and repot it. So I could definitely save it to do it on camera. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Sid says it could cause me to go into anaphylactic shock because my allergy is so severe. Whew. Um, Anaphylactic shock is no joke. I go into anaphylaxis with coconut. I'm deathly allergic to coconut. I'm also deathly allergic to macadamia nuts. So, so I've experienced anaphylaxis, and since I am so sorry, that is no fun. That is a very terrifying thing. It's very hard on the body too. Ugh. And psychologically, I feel like I'm very I'm very careful. Like I'm constantly looking at like ingredients, and when we go to like restaurants and like especially desserts, I'm always like, does this have this? Does this have coconut? Does this have macadamia? Um, I have to be very, very, and I'm also allergic to a bunch of other things like soy and sesame and corn. But it's not as severe. I don't go into anaphylaxis, but it does make like my mouth itch. So I am careful there too, but at least I don't have to worry too much. It's just like a slight annoyance. But the others, no, no. Um, but gosh, oh, and I can imagine with latex gloves. Oh no. Yeah, that she's mentioning that her work involved using latex gloves before non-latex gloves were regular use, and that's terrible. Oh, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Oof. Whew. Yeah. It's not fun. Oh, Darlene, that little cutting is so cute. Your arrangement is beautiful. Thank you so much. And yeah, Barbara, right? The little cups, and those are shot glasses. And I bought them specifically for this project. And so I was trying to find like little containers, and I you know, like the little grow pots, and I couldn't find them that were like that small. And so yeah, I ended up going, you know what? I could just make my own. And so I went to the Dollar Tree and I bought shot glasses, but like they're the hard plastic ones. So they're not flimsy plastic, it's a hard plastic. And I was like, I'm gonna make like, so I used a needle, and I was on my stove and literally until my fingers cramped. I was like making holes. So I made holes not only on the bottom, so I made 5 to 6 holes on the bottom, but I also made them on the sides, so that the water can, any excess water can escape. And yeah, and then I was like, oh, this is perfect. And I can just plop them in there and just add a little bit of, you know, I watered them through until there was a little bit of water left at the bottom of the reservoir. But they're not like sitting in standing water. So it's just like a little bit of water. And then it's a great indicator when I need to kind of use my squirt bottle to fill them up, because I let them completely dry. And then, but yeah, so, and it's clear. So again, better visual cue. Um, but yeah, I wanted to show you that. I did just wanted to show you a couple more cool plants. Um, hold on one second. Here we go. Don't worry, I'm gonna breeze through this. But Hoya are beautiful, and they are a lot of Hoya, if you've had them, right? They are considered semi-succulent. They are in the milkweed family. You can see like if you ever broke a milkweed plant, you see that it also has like a white sap, white latex in it. Um, and Hoyas do too, but the unlike milkweed, because they are toxic, Hoyas are not toxic. But you can accidentally get that on your skin. So I'm not sure if it's also a true latex, and it would elicit an allergy. But it is, you know, technically non-toxic. And they're also very low maintenance. And I have quite a few Hoya here at home. And like this is my Stereogenensis. Oh my gosh, it's like a mouthful to say. Stereo Stereogeonensis. I think that's how you say it. I wrote it down here because it's like such a mouthful. But but I've had this little guy well over a year now, almost 2 years, and it's in pawn. And yeah, I just have it. This is like the little reservoir, and it's just in pawn. So a lot of my plants I have like in semi like aquatic. And then my favorite though has to be this Hoya linearis, and it's just been so happy. And this has been the longest I've ever kept a linearis. I've tried this when I was like younger, and I I didn't have a lot of luck. And this guy has been so happy. She's been growing so steadily. Uh, Here, let me see if you can see like the new growth is coming in there. If you could see it, like almost looks beige. Um, there's some new leaves here. This is just absolutely beautiful. I love this plant so much, and I actually have her in my western window, and she is hanging up on the curtain rod. So she is getting full on light, completely full on light. and I water her every week, every 7 to 10 days. I give her a full bottom water. She's completely drenched, and then I put her right back in that western window, and she has been doing heavenly. She's grown so much for me. Um, she's so wonderful. I am so happy about this plant. Um, I wanted to share her with you because she is beautiful. I'm not ready to cut her yet, but eventually, when she gets a little bit longer, I am gonna cut her, make little pups, and then yeah, I will share her out with uh with the plant community. So keep an eye out if you're interested in like cuttings in the future. But we typically see these like the Hoya carnosas. These are the queens, the crimson queens. And the difference you can tell between a crimson queen and a crimson princess is that they are both carnosa. They're Hoya carnosa, but the crimson queen has a white edge. So the way they say is the queen is wearing the crown and the princess is wearing the gown. So with the princess, you'll see that the white is actually on the inside of the leaf and the edge is green. So it's kind of inverted. So this one is the queen. It's so beautiful. This is a very common Hoya that you might see. Here's an example of the linearis. Very fine. They're succulent, but they're very fine leaves on the linearis. Very delicate. You don't want to like bump it too much. And they are kind of furry. They have like these little hairs all over them. I also like the Hoya carnosa compacta. I recently lost mine. I had mine for a couple years. Recently lost mine, and when it would bloom, it produced these blooms that smelled like Tootsie Rolls. Now, not all Hoyas will produce flowers, but not all of them smell good. So fair warning. There are some Hoyas that the flower, as I've been told, smell absolutely horrendous. So thankfully, I've never come across a really bad smelling one. But apparently they can. They can produce some really funky flowers. Also a member of the Hoya family are the Dichidias. And so these, however, are toxic. So unlike their non-toxic cousins, the Dichidias are toxic. Now these are also known as ant plants because a lot of them are shingling and they'll create almost like their leaves will stick to the trees and almost create like a little dome, kind of like a suction cup. And a lot of ants actually climb and create little homes inside of those leaves. So they have a very symbiotic relationship. And so they're quite beautiful. They also come in very different. There's like the million hearts, I think, is this little one with the variegation, and the ovada is this one that you're seeing that kind of look like little watermelons. And this is one that I have myself, and I have this now for like 2 years. So it's grown a lot, and she's finally giving me vines. So she was like this for a really long time, like here, and then she grew. And now this year, she finally started giving me like more. So yeah, for a while there, she's even getting these little leaves. Hold on, if you can see, yeah. So the starts of the little leaves. So she's finally giving me more vines. She has just been like this long vine for a while. And she is actually just in sphagnum. So she is in no soil whatsoever. This is how I bought her. And again, she was like up to here. Got her for $15, and I was told to just soak it when I noticed it was dry, and that's it. And sure enough, that has worked because they are epiphytic. So they are, plants that are living in the trees. And I do water her with aquarium water. I've also watered her with tap water. So she has been very forgiving and very resilient, very easy. So I really like this plant. So I just wanted to show you Dischidia. It's a very funny funny scientific name. I'm a child. But yeah, I love them very much. And then some succulent like plants that are not in the very common house plant families that we see. Whoops. There we go. The silver dollar plant. I have three of these. I've had them also among some of the oldest plants that I have. And the first one I got started as a cutting, and it's been great. And I have two other plants now as a result. And so yeah, they grow great. They're beautiful. Now they are toxic, so you do have to be careful for kids. Um, and I have a larger one that is cascading down, and then I have two that are still growing upwards. I brought my smallest one because it was like the easiest one to show you. But these also, I water them about every 3 to 4 weeks. So this is my smallest one right now. It's just like waving back and forth. Um, I love them. These cute little like round, they're so like they're very succulent. So, but I love how they're like almost perfectly round, like little paddles. They're just super cute. And this is the fairly newer growth, so it's still succulent, but it'll kind of harden off as it gets a little bit bigger. But absolutely gorgeous. Um, and they grow really wonderfully. When they are really thirsty, they do also get wrinkled as well, but it's just such a low maintenance plant. And I also have it in this type of pot. Now, I don't fill these reservoirs. I just use this because it has this. These are actually all around the edge of my windowsill. So this is kind of like drilled like this, and so I can take it on and off. When I water these, I bottom water them. So I put them into like a little container. They get their fill. I do a little shake, and then I plop them right back in here. But I don't keep water in here. Um, it's just because I just don't want to cause any like root rot or anything like that. But I do like these because I'm able to put them all along. So almost all of our windows have plants because of these pots. So like our kitchen window, our living room window, both of our bedroom windows, as I think only the office is the only room in the house where we don't have these types of pots like completely on the perimeter of the of the of the Hey everyone, Zoom kicked me out. I'm so sorry. Zoom kicked me out. Uh I'm glad that you're hopping back on. I was like, what happened? It just closed. Um, so thank you for hopping back on. For folks that didn't hop back on, this is recording, so I'll snip both recordings together. Um, but yeah, I was very confused. I was like, why did my whole thing just drop? Um, but awesome. Okay, cool. So then let me doop, doop. Nope. Why isn't it? Hold on 1 second. Just trying to share. Yep, sent definitely a surprise. I was like, what's happening? Why is my screen like dropped? So let me see, why isn't this sharing the right page? 1 second. Okay, so maybe this will show the right page. There you go. But yeah, those silver dollar coins, amazing, amazing. I love them very, very much. They look adorable. They look adorable. Highly, highly recommend. And they're becoming much more common in plant stores. So if you get your hands on one, enjoy it. Now, one thing to know is that when it started from seed, these are actually in the cucumber family, which is a really neat fun fact. But when these are started originally, they're their main stem is woody. It will grow woody, so it'll sustain a lot of the weight of these vines. But if they are a cutting, if you got a cutting, it may never turn woody. It might always stay like a very fleshy green vine, but it will never get that caught like a kind of caudex at the base, like the original plant would have gotten. So do keep that in mind. So that's also a great way to know if you got a cutting from someone or if it's like an original plant. And they can grow like crazies. I wanted just to show you how they vine in the wild. They just completely just grow like crazy, like a grapevine almost. Like they just completely wrap around. There was a beautiful one at the New York Botanical, uh, sorry, the New York Botanical Garden. They had a really gorgeous one. And I'm so glad I took photos before. I think I also got video, but I took photos before about like 2 years back. And when I went to show my friend who was visiting from California, we took her to the garden a few weeks ago. And just to kind of show her the greenhouse. And she comes originally from New Mexico. So she really wanted to see the succulent section. So we take her there and I'm like hyping her up and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things. And I mentioned the silver dollar vine. We go and it's been chopped. And I was like, wait, no. So there was still some, but it looks like it had been on some type of tree. I don't remember what type of tree was in there, but there was a tree there and it was covered in it. And the tree was just a stump. So something must have happened. So they took down the tree and then, you know, the whole vine went with it. And they only left like a little section. But these are so cool. And then peperomia. I love peperomia so much. I just realized that I didn't bring it from my bedroom, but I'm gonna stop jumping up and down. um, but peperomia are just amazing. And while, they're non-toxic, so they're great as an addition if you have, pets or even small children in your home. They're kind of worried about them kind of grabbing stuff. And a lot of us are very common, like we're very familiar with like the obtusifolia, which is this thicker one that has like white, and sometimes they come variegated, sometimes they come all green, sometimes they come marbled, and it looks really, really pretty. These are the ones that I have a couple of these. I love obtusifolia. But then there's also the caparatas, and so these have these like red stems. Sometimes they have pink stems. Sometimes they can have green stems. So these are a little thirstier. So I wanted to kind of put these side by side because some of the members of this family are very like succulent like, and they can go weeks without water versus the caparata, which it's very much more like a begonia from what I found. So it starts to dry out. They like a peatier, more moisture loving mix. And then when they are thirsty, it's usually like you have to water them at least once a week, at least. And they'll tell you. So if you have begonias or plants like that where they'll do that faint, they'll kind of faint when they're thirsty. That's the same thing that will happen in this case. So they will start to faint on you. But they are beautiful and they come in so many gorgeous colors. But I personally have not had, I've had many over the years, but none that I've been able to keep very happy for very long. I don't think they've ever lived more than a year because if I ever just forgot to water them, um, it's hard to rebound from that. I've started a couple from cuttings. You can actually produce them from like a leaf cutting or a stem cutting. You can make babies, and I would keep them hydroponically, and I had those for a while. Those that I actually kept in water for a very long time, I was able to keep happy. But those that I had in soil, it's like I either forgot, and I by the time I watered them, it was just too it was too late. So I much prefer their more succulent varieties. Because yeah, there were so many plants. It's very, very hard for me to have plants here that need water at least once a week. I need to kind of cycle it out because, as again, as I mentioned, I do like sections. So I try not to do multiple sections on the same day because then I'm doubling myself up. So let's say, so Sundays I tend to do, these guys. Like Wednesdays, I tend to do like the kitchen. Um, and then, it might be like on Fridays or a Saturday, I'll do plants like in the bedroom. And then sometimes like Mondays or Tuesdays, I'll work on the plants in the bathroom so that so that I give myself like ample time. Because if I go and I do, 3 sections in one day, that means that if the plants, let's say, are on a 2 week cycle, that means in 2 weeks I'm going to have a full day again of plant chores. So I have to break them up. So therefore, sometimes, a plant that needs like one every water every week is very difficult, here. Oh, that's odd. What is happening today? Hold on. It just, there we go. It closed my window. I think maybe it's my computer. I don't know what's happening. But yes, but here are just a couple examples of some really cool peperomias that you could check out. These are the more succulent peperomias, so like the happy bean and the string bean. These are very, very succulent. So they are usually you see these actually on the shelves with cacti. So this is what causes a lot of confusion is that people buy these thinking that they're cacti, or just some type of succulent. So they are thirstier than, let's say, a desert cacti. So they would probably want water well before a month. Um, but maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how quickly they're drying out. But these you definitely want them to dry out between watering, so you don't want to water them when they're still damp. But they're very cool plants, very, very neat. And then Pelias. So Pelias are kind of in that semi-succulent as well. So there are some that, like with the peperomias, are very thin and they definitely need more water. But then there's some other ones like the Pelia peperomoides, which can definitely take a little longer, between waterings, and is a little bit like more succulent like. And they're also non-toxic. So again, really cool plant to have. Now these are the ones like the aluminum plants. These are Pelias as well that can get very thirsty. So while these are very beautiful, they'll need a little bit more water. Same with these Pelias, very beautiful, but they're a little thinner, so they will need a little bit more water. And whoops, where did it go? There we go. And then the last one is the ZZ plant. So ZZ, absolutely love them. So these are actually in the aroid family. So they're related to philodendrons and scindapsus and, pothos and epiprenums. They're in that same family, but they look very different, right? If you look at, let's say, I just showed that philodendron earlier. So that and a ZZ are in the same family. They look drastically different. And ZZs, they're built for drought essentially. So, and as you saw earlier too, someone mentioned, I think it was Terry, right, about the rhizomes. So they grow with these rhizomes. They look like little potatoes. They grow in a very different way. It's just it's a very kind of like it's the oddball, of the family. It's very different. Um, but they're beautiful, very common house plants. They are toxic, which all members of the arum or Ariaceae family, so it used to be called the arum family. These are all toxic. So do keep that in mind if you have these. But they're very waxy. Even the stem itself is very, very thick, and the leaves that they produce very, very thick, beautiful, beautiful plants, very glossy. And there are just so many varieties now. I've mentioned it previously, like, there are Zenzies, which are tinier. They're like dwarves. There's also the chameleons that have come out, which just has like white splotches. There are variegated varieties that are like white, and some there are auras, like with yellows, um, aureas. And then there's also ravens. And so those are the ones that have the black leaves. I have a raven as well, and these are very resilient. So like my raven had arrived during a winter a couple years back, and it got completely frozen. So the whole top section was just lost. It was completely burned off. It was terrible. So I had to cut it completely down. But it still had all that energy in those rhizomes. Those rhizomes were perfectly healthy. They weren't rotting or anything. And it was just a waiting game. And very slowly, the plant started producing new stems. And sure enough, I got a whole plant out of it. Um, so these aren't necessarily the fastest growers, but they can get pretty substantial. I've seen some very, very large ZZs. And this is a plant that's very happy for you to kind of neglect it. So these plants, you can definitely water them every 3 to 4 weeks, even. I have literally had folks tell me that oh my gosh, I completely forgot about my ZZ. I went away and they're like gone for 6 weeks, and they come home and their ZZ's perfectly fine. So, so it can definitely go through a really long time if you were to have forgotten it. There was actually a client of mine that she had left some of her plants during the COVID initial lockdown, where they kind of told everybody you couldn't come back to the office. It took, I think, almost 2 months before she was able to come back to her office to collect things. And some of her plants were dead, and her ZZ, I think it was her ZZ, her snake plant, and I think she had a Dracaena, but like the cane plants, um, and was also perfectly fine. So they didn't they were like, oh, you're back, um, but they didn't they were fine. They made it through. And I just love when the new leaves come in. So these don't produce leaves like other plants might in this family, where they'll have like a stem, and then they'll kind of put out that growth, right? And then from the node, another leaf will come out. With these, all the leaves that they're going to have on that stem come out at the same time. So they will not produce more leaves from that stem. And usually the base of that stem is going to be bare as they get bigger. Um, and so when that stem emerges, and all of the leaves that are going to exist on that stem come out at the same time. So it comes out like this, and then they open up, and the leaves go from like a lime green to a darker green, and those are the leaves that you're going to have on that stem. So it's not going to generate more leaves from that stem specifically. So just a neat, really neat plant. I really like these plants, and they're very, very easy to propagate. So you can propagate them actually from leaf cuttings like this. You can propagate them from stem cuttings, like just enough stem with the leaves. So you can absolutely produce them that way. And like I had shown previously, I have a little Raven ZZ that I got from a parking lot. I actually have another little plant in there with it right now, but um, so mind you, this little guy isn't a ZZ. He's just I plopped him in there to see if he would root, because Maple broke him off of my plant back here because he tipped it over. But this little Raven ZZ was just these two leaves and stem, and then over time it created this little potato, this little rhizome here. And then once the rhizome was developed, it produced these roots. And it's just happily growing like that. And it's this really gorgeous, gorgeous, dark, 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 dark green that almost looks jet black. You could see that how shiny it is. So they have a very waxy cuticle. And so plants have a waxy substance on their leaves that helps protect against pathogens, water loss, sunlight, like to protect them from sunburn. Now, sometimes it's not strong enough, but you will see that a lot of plants that are built for that really strong light are going to be very shiny. So they're gonna have a lot more of that waxy cuticle to protect them. But yeah, I just wanted to show you some really cool plants. But let me see the comments. Sorry about the thing going down. Um, oh yes, oh yes, Synth. Oh gosh. Oh, so Synth does. It's very reassuring to know you've had failures. Um, yeah, this is how you learn. It's totally how you learn. There's a lot of plants that I had to get several times until I got it right. Like the linearis, the Hoya linearis. I think this is my third or fourth time I've owned a linearis. And that linearis, I think I bought her in March, maybe February, March, something around there. Um, and I've kept her so happy. And so I've killed so many. And I've killed so many before, and it's because you just got to figure it out. I've killed snake plants early on. I killed several snake plants. I've killed a lot of cacti before until I figured it out. Um, gosh, I've even killed monstera before. I when I first got into monstera back in like 2014, 2015. I didn't know about, how, so that's why it's very important. And I have a background in environmental education, and so in biology, I specialized in ecology and evolution. And so by bridging that with my houseplants, I was able to kind of like, wait, hold up, let me figure out, so where does the plant grow? And I think that's what has really been a game changer for me is like, okay, well, where is the plant growing? So no, it wouldn't be growing in a mixture, right? That's like brown mud, right? This is a plant, let's say like the Monstera. It's growing, yes, in more rainforest systems, but maybe the base of the plant is in the soil, but the rest of the plant is up on the tree. So really the majority of the plant is existing on another plant. It's living on that tree. It's taken, the roots are taking in any fallen leaves, any debris, anything like that. They're getting any nutrition from that. But it doesn't want to be sitting in like mud, essentially. And it's just kind of like learning that and going, okay, so it needs an airier mix. And, yeah, but you definitely, oh, sometimes, there are plants that I buy and I'm like, I try to be more mindful. So I'm like, I want to research what is the plant, but I have definitely picked up plants that I had no idea what it was. And I go, this is really pretty, and I and I want it. And many times I have killed them. I went through a whole begonia phase. No, I love begonias, but yeah, I've killed many begonias. Um, and I just found that was my niche is definitely like aeroids and like succulents. That is a plants that I'm very much fit with my lifestyle. So I work a lot, and so having plants that I don't have to like stay on top of and like watch, I think that's a big thing for our lifestyle. So both Brian and I are working, and so yeah, plants that we can forget about for 2 weeks. Like that's very important to us that we're able to do that. I know Brian wants to create because Brian specializes in like automation and stuff. So he's been discussing things like setting up like you know a system where if we have like a cabinet and with sensors, and that it would say, oh, your plants are dry, and then it would automatically water them. We would just have to have like a reservoir. Like that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Far off in the future. But something like that which would then allow us to keep some, plants that might need a little bit more upkeep that we wouldn't, be able to keep otherwise. Like I'd love to do that. I'd love to keep certain types of Hoyas, certain types of aeroids, that just need a little bit more moisture, and I would love to do that. But it's like as it stands right now, yeah, it's not realistic. I'd end up kind of, throwing money down the drain. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've definitely found I've figured it out. So usually if I see like let's say a Ripsalis or a Euphorbia at the store that I don't have, I'm like, oh, I grab it because I know how to take care of these. And, for sure. Uh, but yeah, I even when I'm looking out for folks or for folks that reach out to me about taking in plants and things like that, I'm always very honest. Like if somebody says, "Hey, can you take this?" and I'm like, "I'm so sorry." Like, I might kill your begonia. Like, you know, I love begonias and I know how to take care of them, but what ends up happening is I'm just not, especially with the watering aspect. That's what ends up kind of being my downfall is is yes, I know how to, but if I am going to be able to meet that requirement is very different. So I think that's, and I am working little by little on my houseplant care book, and that's one big section that I have at the beginning where I was like, you really have to understand yourself. You got to be realistic because there's the you want to be, there's the you that you really want to be, and then there's the real you, the realistic you. And if you're going to start, building up your collection, you really have to understand the real you. Um, and not overburden yourself too, right? Because you don't want to also put a bunch of new responsibilities on your shoulders if right now is not a good time. So um, yeah, so really kind of assessing yourself, very much so. And then thinking, okay, realistically, what are plants that I like that I'm able to actually take care of? And I think that coming to that understanding is very important for you to kind of start off your hobby. Life can change, and maybe you start working from home or something like that, right? And then your circumstances change, and then you can be that person that you wanted to be and have the plans that you wanted to have. But when you're just starting out and stuff, oh yeah, absolutely. And Barbara says, reminds me of the jade plant, which I love. Also have not been very successful at growing the cuttings. Yeah. And that's also a whole other thing, is experimenting with like propagations. I could not grow cuttings in soil. I could not do it. I tried. They would always mold or rot on me. And as an experiment, I started growing plants in leca. And that was like in 2013, 2014. I started playing around with that. And then I only had done a couple, and then I kind of stopped doing it for a little bit. And then I picked it back up in like 2016. And now that's how I start all of my succulents. So is in leca, also in pon, now that I've been playing around with pon. Um, and yeah, leca, pon, and now I started playing with ceram site. So I even actually have just to show you real quick before I head out. Sorry, I've kept folks a little longer today. Where is this? Oh, here we go. I actually grew this snake plant in leca. So it was a cutting that it broke off of my bigger snake plant. And so we have cats. So we end up having accidents. And so this snapped right off. It came off the shelf, and this poor leaf, like I heard the snap and I went, oh no, oh no. Um, but I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try to propagate it. I put it into some leca. It was actually in a thinner container. And all of a sudden, it rooted. It was very happy, and I started to see a pup growing. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's doing really well." And I recently moved it into a larger container because the container it was in had a much narrower opening, and so I was afraid it was going to start to constrict the baby. But yeah, look at that. Has this whole thing is brand new. This is all new growth, and yeah, just growing in there. And this is just leca. So so this you know and yeah, it's So I love growing them in this type of mixture. I think it's easier for me to see, especially in clear containers when I need to top them off with water. And yeah, it's just it's wonderful. I really prefer this kind of growth. It what works for me. It's what works for me. And so I like to share it with other people. So if you're kind of like busy schedule and you really want to propagate plants, doing them in like these types of mixes, it works really well. It works really well. And I've had like a 99% success rate with succulents and growing them in that type of substrate. So like a rocky, soilless type of substrate. I've had so much more luck with them. And yeah, uh, I don't think I'm gonna go back. Once they are good to go, I have successfully transplanted them into soil, but to start them out, yes, this has been this has been wonderful. A wonderful way to do it. But yeah, but thanks so much, everyone, and sorry about the mid drop. I don't know what's happening, but I appreciate you hanging around. I definitely just wanted to show you some cool plants today, and yeah. Oh, how do you spell that soil? Yes, so that's LECA. So it's actually an acronym. So LECA is lightweight. I think it's lightweight expanded clay aggregate. I think so. Yeah. Lightweight expanded clay aggregate, LECA. Um, yes. And so you can, yeah, you're welcome, Carol. Yeah, you can order them. It's really cheap if you buy them, I've found, from pet stores. So I would look up hydro balls and yeah, they can get like a nice big bag for like 10 to 15 bucks in comparison to when you try to get them from places even like IKEA and like Home Depot. Some of those places do sell them as well, but it's like a higher sticker price. So, but yeah. Thank you, Linda, Linda, for joining. But thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, this was so much fun. And oh, I'm glad, Marianne. And yeah, thank you, Darlene. Yes, I hope you guys enjoy very much so the rest of your Monday, and have a great Halloween if you celebrate. For those that also celebrate Samhain tomorrow, it's like the pagan New Year. So for those that celebrate, um, may you have a great New Year. Um, and yeah, enjoy the rest. I can't believe it. We're about to be in November. Oh my gosh. Then it's holiday season. So yeah, please enjoy the rest of your week and stay safe. And yeah, I'll see you next week for the Q&A. So yeah, I'm very excited. Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you so much. Happy Halloween. Yes.
Happy Halloween. Bye, everyone.